Iron Man for the PlayStation 4's virtual reality system is a rough around the edges diamond for the virtual reality genre as a whole. While it cuts many corners to make our superhero dream a reality, what it doesn't sacrifice is the core gameplay, which is simply phenomenal. Releasing at the end of the PlayStation 4's life, and at a time when video game releases are more conventional rather than inspirational, Iron Man in VR incredibly makes you feel like you are a kid again, releasing that magic that you only experience the very first time you play a video game in your life. At its core, Iron Man VR is about the gameplay, featuring fluid controls, solid frame rate, and unhindered movement that is both challenging and requiring a skill, just as one would expect if they had strapped on rocket repulsors to the palms of their hands in real life. This is not an on-rail shooter. All the movement and flying you see is real and controlled by your own body in real life. This simply cannot be understated how amazing this is to feel and play, and amazingly enough with no motion sickness in my experience. And in order to showcase this amazing gameplay, the developers thankfully included a nice three-dimensional level system that lets you choose and replay missions again and again in order to practice and hone your flying skills. There are 12 main missions, and each one has additional combat and flight challenges, along with a free flight mode, giving this game a whole host of replayability. However, this brings us to our first downfall of the game, which is the loading. Each level requires anywhere from 1 to almost 3 minutes to load, which might be bearable for a traditional game when you're laying down with snacks and drinks nearby, but for a virtual reality game that forces you to stand the entire time during each loading screen, it is an agonizing wait for each level to load. This may be better on the PlayStation 4 Pro, but on my original system it really made me begging for the PlayStation 5 with a solid-state drive. However, I am happy to report that the agonizing wait is well worth it. Even in a simple free flight mode, the fluid and responsive flight controls honestly make you feel like you are flying, and words really struggle to describe the feeling you experience when you successfully fly through narrow openings and evade rooftops with inches to spare. This all being a result of your own actions and inputs from your hands. Swing your palms back to boost forward, throw them in front of you to emergency brake, or put your hands up in air like you just don't care in order to boost downward. The flying physics work exactly like how you always imagined they would be, back when you were a kid just dreaming about being Iron Man. As far as the campaign story goes, it is a fairly forgettable experience. The writing is incredibly generic and unfortunately spoils their own story by basically revealing the only interesting plot twist by so obviously showcasing who the true villain is pretty much the very second you first encountered them. It has a lot of potential, but it's so poorly executed that it's pretty much all wasted and forgotten, and has zero tie-in with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The voice actors are substitutes from what we are familiar with from the movies, but overall they give us serviceable or even impressive performances, so it definitely doesn't distract from the story. The primary antagonist in this game is known as Ghost, a similar but different Ghost from the one we see in the movie Ant-Man and the Wasp, and she definitely is my favorite supporting character from the campaign. The entire story is about 8 to 12 hours long, depending on the difficulty you choose at the beginning. I played through the story at the hardest difficulty, known as Invincible, and it definitely took me closer to 12 hours to complete it all, with many retries along the way. As far as the graphics go, they are certainly another negative aspect of the game. While the main character models are not too shabby, the background environments are absolutely abysmal and remind you of the good old PlayStation 2 days, with muddy textures and completely empty cities featuring no civilians or cars in sight. While it's an unfortunate reality to face, I believe it's reasonable given the current hardware limitations restricting the first generation of VR for the PlayStation. While some might feel this is unacceptable, I can happily look past its graphical shortcomings due to its overwhelmingly fun and challenging skill-based gameplay, especially for a discounted game at only $40 instead of the usual $60. Developed by the Seattle-based game developers Camouflage, this game really does focus its efforts on trying to be fun to play, and it does an excellent job at including little mini-games inside your home-based Malibu mansion, along with many Easter eggs and tidbits that can be found throughout the different levels that you encounter. Make your way to the garage inside Tony Stark's Malibu home and you'll find the ability to fully customize your Iron Man suit. You can complete fun gameplay challenges to unlock new and shiny paint jobs that can be applied to either of the two different Iron Man suit loadouts available. Additionally, you can also earn research point tokens from missions and time trials in order to unlock weapon upgrades for your suit. Thankfully, there's a surprising amount of weapons and upgrades to unlock, giving you a real sense of customization that can significantly alter the gameplay. After you have spent your newly acquired skill points on upgrading your suit, you can then head over to one of the many different combat-focused time trial challenges that make an excellent and enjoyable way to test run your newly equipped weapon and armor upgrades. At any given time, you have 2 weapons on each of your arms, giving you a total of 4 deadly options. You will always have the classic palm repulsors that fire a quick damaging shot with a quick flip of the wrist upward. Alternatively, you also have a heavy weapon that is accessible when you flick your wrist downward, and this is the one you can customize to your unique playstyle. There are 6 different heavy weapons to choose from, and you can mix and match with your left and right hands. My favorite so far is using the quick lock-on missiles on my right hand for when I get in trouble, while also having a single shot rocket on my left for creating maximum damage on more slower targets. It is also nice to note that the campaign does a noteworthy job at regulating the pace of the story, giving you plenty of opportunity to enjoy a relaxing puzzle or narrative-driven level in between the otherwise extremely frantic blasting of hundreds of drones out of the sky for 30 minutes at a time. Iron Man's first attempt at virtual reality is a rough-around-the-edges success that might just be the best virtual reality game so far on the PlayStation 4. Filled with incredibly dynamic and fluid gameplay that is both enjoyable and deeply challenging to master, this is a game you can and probably will want to play again and again long after you complete the entirely forgettable campaign story. This is why for our review, Iron Man VR scores a subpar story rating of 2 out of 5 stars, a mediocre 3 out of 5 stars for graphics, but a wonderfully off-the-charts 5 out of 5 stars on gameplay, for an overall score of 4 out of 5. And for a VR game, this is about as good as it gets so far. And if you do have a PlayStation 4 with a VR headset, this is pretty much a no-brainer to get, even if you are not a huge superhero fan. So congrats, Iron Man. We do almost love you 3000. Thanks for watching. If you liked that review and would like to see more, please subscribe, as we're a brand new YouTube channel. Dude, look at that. Look at that. That's something, huh? Like, even the little servos, like, here, listen. There's little servos every time you twist your arms. It's wonderful.